Hola queridos aprendientes. Hello dear students. Bienvenidos al curso básico de lengua y cultura españolas. Welcome to the basic Spanish language and culture course. Mi nombre es Akshay Kale, soy vuestro profesor de español para este curso en línea. My name is Akshay Kale and I am your professor for this online Spanish course. En este video vamos a aprender sobre a conjugar verbos que terminan en ar y con cambios vocálicos, conjugar verbos que terminan en ir y huir con cambios vocálicos en la raíz, conjugar verbos con más de una irregularidad o modificación ortográfica, conjugar verbos totalmente irregulares. In this video, you will learn to conjugate ar and ending verbs with vowel changes, conjugate ir and uir ending verbs with vowel changes, conjugate verbs with more than one irregularity or spelling change, conjugate totally irregular verbs. Dear students, we have learned that when regular verbs are conjugated, keep their stem, also called root or radical, drop the ar, and ir infinitive endings, and add the corresponding endings for the respective subjects. For example, jo, tu, etc. Now, in the previous session, we learned how to conjugate verbs which are irregular but only in the first person, right? So, we did a couple of a main category of verbs which were irregular in the first person singular, and then we saw some subcategories as well. Now, let's look at the other groupings of patterns of irregular verbs which will help you to master the conjugation of these irregular verbs which are so commonly used in Spanish. Now, bear in mind, students, stem changing verbs do not follow the regular verb patterns of conjugation. As their name changes, they change a vowel in the stem, which is also called the root sometimes. Remember that stem changes affect all persons in the singular and the third person plural. The exceptions are the nosotros and vosotros forms, both plural forms which are always conjugated in a regular way. Although they do not always use the same system, vocabulary and verb lists in textbooks and dictionaries usually indicate stem changes such as e changes to ea, o changes to ue, etc. La e cambia a ie, o cambia ue, etc. Following the infinitive in the entry. So now if you look at a dictionary or a textbook, you'll find that this is the way these irregular verbs are mostly indicated, right? For example, empezar, which would fall in the category of a changing to ea, tells you that the present tense is empiezo, empiezas, empieza. I start, empiezo, tú empiezas, you start, ella usted empieza, he or she starts, or he or she, or the you irrespective form usted. Stem changing verbs are grouped according to the infinitive endings and the pattern of changes in the stem vowels. So what does this mean? This means let's look at the verbs ending in r and which would be one of the first categories of stem changing verbs with the vowel change. R and stem changing verbs with the stem vowel e or a change to ea. Remember that the stem changes occur in all forms except the plural forms, nosotros and vosotros. So let's look at the classic example of verbs ending in r and which have this irregularity, which have this vowel irregularity. So cerrar, to close. Now cerrar is conjugated as yo cierro because it ends in r but the e changes to ea. So it is yo cierro, tú cierras, ella usted cierra, nosotros nosotras cerramos, vosotros vosotras cerráis, ellos y ustedes cierran. Now bear in mind, dear students, as we have seen, this is an ar ending verb, so the ending would be o, as, a, amos, ais, an, right? But there is a change in the stem. So it's not cerro, it is fierro, fierras, fierra. The exceptions being the nosotros and vosotros forms, the plural forms, the plural first person and second person only, which are always regular in this sort of verbs. So it is cerramos, nosotros cerramos, and vosotros cerráis. Now querer, to love or to want, would be quiero, quieres, quiere, queremos, queréis, quieren. Again, as you can see, yo quiero, no, not quiero. Tú quieres, not quieres. Ella usted quiere. Nosotros and vosotros always regular. So it would be queremos, queréis. Ustedes, ellos, ellas quieren. Now again we have the irregularity in the stem. Verbos irregulares. The following is a list of commonly used are verbs that follow the same pattern as cerrar. So these verbs are merendar, to have supper, atravesar, to cross over, comenzar, to begin, confesar, to confess, despertarse, to wake up, empezar, which is again like comenzar, to start or to begin, encerrar, to lock in or contain, fregar, to wash dishes, to scrub, gobernar, to govern or to rule, nevar, which is to snow, negar, to deny, helar, to freeze, pensar, to think, pensar en or sobre algo, to think about something, recomendar, to recommend, and finally sentarse, to sit down. So you'll say, yo me siento en la silla. I sit down on the chair. So it is me siento. The A changes to EA. Yo me siento or me siento en la silla. The following is a list of commonly used air verbs that follow the pattern of querer. So these verbs are defender, to defend, descender, to descend or to go down, entender, understand, encender, to light up, and perder, to lose. So for example, por ejemplo, mis padres no entienden el español. My parents don't understand Spanish, right? Mis padres no entienden el español. So bear in mind how the vowel changes, right, in the stem itself. So it's not mis padres no entienden, like it would be the case with a verb like comer, which is a regular verb, right? Mis padres comen pescado. My parents eat fish, but here it is mis padres no entienden el español. My parents don't understand Spanish. Ojo, pay attention. Keep in mind that helar and nevar, which you have seen previously, are impersonal verbs used in the third person singular only. Right? Podemos esquiar si nieva. We can ski if it snows. La carretera es peligrosa cuando hiela. The road is dangerous when it freezes. R and air stem changing verbs with the stem vowel O change to UE. Right? Los verbos que terminan en ar e er con cambio vocálico cambian la vocal O a UE. Por ejemplo, contar, to count or to retell volver, to return, contar, to tell. So, contar, for example, becomes cuento, cuentas, cuenta, contamos, contáis, cuentan. Volver similarly becomes yo vuelvo, tú vuelves, él y usted vuelve, nosotros volvemos, vosotros volvéis, ellos y ustedes vuelven. Right? Volver is to return. The following is a list of commonly used air verbs that follow the pattern of volver. So these verbs are conmover, to move emotionally, devolver, to return something, doler, to hurt, llover, to rain, morder, to bite, mover, to move, for example, an object, oler, to smell, poder, to be able to do something, poder hacer algo, resolver, to solve, revolver, to shake, and soler, to be accustomed to. The following is a list of commonly used R and air ending verbs that follow the pattern of contar and volver. So we have acordarse, de, to remember something, acostarse, to go to bed, almorzar, to eat lunch, aprobar, to approve or to pass, as in aprobar un examen, colgar, to hang or to hang up, costar, to cost, demostrar, to demonstrate or to prove, encontrar, to find, mostrar, to show, probar, to try, probarse would be to try on something, recordar, to remember, rogar, to beg, sonar, to sound, soñar con algo, to dream about something, tronar, to thunder, and finally volar, which is to fly. Remember, dear students, queridos aprendientes, prestar atención, Estos verbos se conjugan como volver y como contar. Verbs ending in ir. In the present tense, stem changing verbs ending in ir are grouped in one of three patterns according to the change in the stem vowels. A to EA, O to UE or O A OA, E to I. As with all stem changing verbs, these changes occur in all forms except the plural forms nosotros and vosotros. Now, ir verbs with the stem change with the stem vowel E change to IE. Right, so we have preferir, to prefer, and the conjugation is yo prefiero, tú prefieres, él y usted prefiere, nosotros preferimos, vosotros preferís, ellos y ustedes prefieren. Now the verbs like preferir are advertir, to notify or warn, presentir, to forebode or to predict, convertir, to convert, referir or referirse a, to refer to, divertirse, to have a good time, sentir, to regret, hervir, to boil, sentirse is to feel. For example, yo me siento bien, I feel good, yo me siento mal, I feel bad, right? And mentir, to lie. Now, ir verbs with the stem vowel O change to UE, right? La O cambia a UE. Here we have only dormir, to sleep, which is yo duermo, tú duermes, él y usted duerme, nosotros dormimos, vosotros dormís, ellos y ustedes duermen. Again, queridos estudiantes, dear students, please make note of the fact that the vosotros and the nosotros forms are always regular, right? So it is dormimos and dormís. Morirse, to die, is another verb like dormir, right? So it will be yo muero, tú mueres, él y usted muere, nosotros morimos, vosotros morís, ellos y ustedes mueren. Ir verbs with the stem vowel A change to E, right? Chicos, please make note of this fact. Los verbos que terminan en ir con el cambio vocálico en la raíz E cambian a I. Por ejemplo, pedir, to ask for or request, is yo pido, tú pides, él y usted pide, nosotros pedimos, vosotros pedís, ellos y ustedes piden. Right? Now the verbs like pedir are despedir, to fire from a job, repetir, to repeat, despedirse de alguien, to say goodbye to somebody, seguir, to follow, impedir, to avoid, servir, to serve, medir, to measure, sonreír or sonreírse, which is to smile, perseguir, again like seguir, which is follows, perseguir would be to pursue, vestirse, to dress or to get dressed, reírse de, to laugh or to make fun of. Note the spelling changes of seguir and its compounds where the soft G sound is followed by E. For example, it is sigues, S-E-I-G-U-E-S, sigues, sigue, siguen. All forms of reír and sonreír also have an accent mark on the stem vowel I. Now, let's talk about verbs ending in uir. Verbs ending in uir add a Y and Y or Y following the U in all forms except the nosotros and nosotros forms. The indication Y reminds you of this change in verb lists and in glossaries. Incluir, to include, is one of the main verbs of this category. Right, so it is not incluyo, it is incluyo con Y. So there is a Y there which is there. So it is yo incluyo, tú incluyes, él y usted incluye, nosotros incluimos, vosotros incluís, ellos y ustedes incluyen. Note that verbs ending in gir are not included in this group. So we are talking about verbs like distinguir, for example. So distinguir is yo distingo and the rest is regular, as you've seen in the previous video. But other verbs like incluir are atribuir, to attribute, distribuir, to distribute, concluir, to conclude, huir, to flee, contribuir, to contribute, influir, to influence, destruir, to destroy, and sustituir, which is to substitute. Now, let's talk about the verbs showing more than one irregularity or spelling change. Verbos con más de una irregularidad o modificación ortográfica. The main verbs in this category are tener, to have, venir, to come, decir, to say, Oír, to hear, and estar, to be. So tener is yo tengo, tú tienes, él ya usted tiene, nosotros tenemos, vosotros tenéis, ellos ya ustedes tienen. Venir would be yo vengo, tú vienes, él ya usted viene, nosotros venimos, vosotros venís, ellos ustedes vienen. They are quite similar except for if you notice that venir ends in IR, so it is venís and venimos, whereas tener, which ends in AR, R, will be tenemos or tenéis. Decir is again very irregular and a very commonly used verb which we used to say, for example, in sentences such as ¿Cómo se dice en español? How is it said in Spanish? Or how do you say it in Spanish? So dice is an irregular form, as we can see. Yo digo, tú dices, él ya usted dice, nosotros decimos, vosotros decís, ellos ya ustedes dicen. Oír, to hear, yo oigo, tú oyes, él ya usted oye, nosotros oímos, vosotros oís, ellos ya ustedes oyen. Now, estar, to be. Yo estoy, tú estás, él ya usted está, nosotros estamos, vosotros estáis, ellos ya ustedes están. Now, there are also other verbs, or only two, which are completely irregular. These are ir, to go, and ser, to be. So, ir, to go is yo voy, tú vas, él ya usted va, nosotros, nosotras vamos, vosotras, vosotras vais, ellos ya ustedes van. Now with ser it would be yo soy, tú eres, él ya usted es, nosotros somos, vosotros sois, ellos ya ustedes son. Now obviously, dear students, I'm sure that you know the conjugation of these verbs which are used very commonly, and well, you have to absolutely have it on your fingertips. Now dear students, let's practice a little bit with these conjugations, with these irregular verbs and their conjugations. Bailar con las estrellas. Escribe la forma correspondiente del presente de indicativo. Mi amiga Patricia estar en el estudio para ver el programa Bailar con las estrellas. Now, dear students, what would be the correct answer here? Mi amiga Patricia está en el estudio. Aquí en el estudio, haber, as you've seen, haber is also an irregular verb which takes only one conjugation. In plural as well as singular, it is hay. So, aquí en el estudio hay muchos aficionados al baile. Todos los aficionados llegar al estudio para ver esta competencia de baile. Now, dear students, this is somewhat of a googly. Llegar is a regular verb. So, here it will be todos los aficionados llegan al estudio para ver esta competencia de baile. Carlos ser uno de los participantes y yo decir que Carlos va a ganar hoy. So obviously Carlos is third person singular. Carlos es uno de los participantes y yo digo que Carlos va a ganar hoy. Muchas personas venir para divertirse con la música. Muchas personas, ¿cuál es la respuesta correcta, queridos estudiantes? Pues muchas personas vienen para divertirse con la música. Carlos tener a su prima aquí y baila con ella. Carlos tiene a su prima aquí y baila con ella. Si venir al programa, tú oír los comentarios de los jueces. Now, dear students, venir is to come, oír is to hear. So obviously the correct answer here would be, si vienes al programa, tú oyes los comentarios de los jueces. Jueces, dear students, is judge. Right? Juez is judge, jueces is judges. So what the sentence means here is, if you come to the program, you will hear or you'll get to hear the comments of the judges. Now, let's do another exercise. Unos amigos se van de vacaciones a la playa. Escribe la forma apropiada del verbo entre paréntesis. Raúl y yo poder viajar durante las vacaciones de verano. So the correct answer here is, Raúl y yo solo podemos viajar. Lejos de la playa, una habitación en el hotel no costar mucho. Una habitación no cuesta mucho. Mi agente de viajes siempre encuentra tarifas especiales. Yo soler almorzar a las 2 de la tarde. Yo suelo almorzar a las 2 de la tarde. Yo jugar al cricket por las mañanas. Now, dear students, it is yo juego al cricket por las mañanas, right? Jugar is another example of these stem changing irregular verbs where the U changes to UE. U cambia a UE. Si llueve, voy al polideportivo. María y Andrés recordar sus vacaciones en Puerto Rico. María y Andrés recuerdan sus vacaciones en Puerto Rico. Now, usa la forma apropiada del verbo entre paréntesis. Use the correct form of the verb which goes in the bracket. Carolina, preferir café. Estudiantes, ¿cuál es la respuesta correcta? Carolina prefiere café. Ese hombre, mentir. Ese hombre miente. Yo sentir mucho su ausencia. Yo siento mucho su ausencia. ¿Por qué ustedes no convertir los dólares a peso? ¿Por qué ustedes no convierten los dólares a pesos? La nota en el libro, referir a la página 356. La nota en el libro refiere a la página 356. Ahora, chicos, el último ejercicio para practicar esos verbos irregulares. The last exercise to practice these irregular verbs. ¿Cómo se dice en español? The water boils or is boiling. El agua hierve. The verb is hervir, but the E changes to IE. Right? E cambia a IE. The E changes to IE. El agua hierve. Juan doesn't lie. Juan no miente. So you see mentir, where the E cambia a I. The E changes to I. La E cambia a I. He feels fine. Él se siente bien. They have a good time. Se divierten. You are lying. Ustedes mienten. We prefer to play chess. Nosotros preferimos jugar al ajedrez. As you remember, dear students, nosotros and nosotros will always be regularly conjugated. They will be conjugated in the regular way. Dear students, I hope this video has been really interesting and informative for you, and that you will master the conjugation of irregular verbs. That's it for now. Thanks. Gracias, chicos.